The first warning came in silk. Alexei stood by the mirror, buttoning the cuffs of his best shirt, not the one he wore to meetings or dinners with clients, but the one reserved for evenings that weren't supposed to be remembered by his wife. He smelled faintly of cedar and something citrusy, the cologne she had once gifted him for their anniversary. Her fingers had wrapped that box in silver ribbon. Now, he wore it for someone else. "I'll be late," he said, grabbing his phone from the kitchen island without looking at her. "Project's on fire. Might have to stay over at the office." Eve nodded once. "Of course. Good luck with it." She didn't ask which project. That, too, was a test. The front door closed behind him with a dull finality, like a book shutting at the wrong chapter. The silence that followed was not still. It hissed in her ears, vibrating with quiet rage. She stood at the window, watching him walk toward his car with the practiced ease of a man unbothered by lies. But it was the shirt that did it. That stupid, crisp, special occasions only shirt. He wasn't headed to a meeting. He was heading into his other life. She didn't hesitate. 20 minutes later, Eve was behind the wheel, her hair tied back in a low, severe knot, eyes hidden behind dark lenses. The city rolled past her like a projection. Her fingers clutched the steering wheel, but her mind had already left the vehicle. She saw it before she even turned off the engine. The pastel balloons, the ivory ribbons fluttering in the spring air, and the massive sign that hung on the gate of the rented country house. "Welcome, little one." Her jaw tightened. From the car, she saw him, Alexei, stepping out with a wine bottle in one hand and a wrapped gift in the other. He kissed someone on the cheek. No, not the cheek, the temple. His hand curved gently over the belly of the woman beside him, blonde, younger, glowing, laughing. And then she saw it, the label on the gift, from Alexei and Eva. The air in the car turned to ice. He had used her name, used their marriage as wrapping paper for a lie. Her hand trembled slightly as she lifted the phone and took a picture. 1, 2, 3. A flicker of movement. Diana, of course that had to be her name, opened the box. Inside, soft baby clothes folded neatly. Blue, a soft knitted bear, and a card written in her handwriting, Eve's. From a year ago, he had kept the card, recycled the sentiment from Eva. The camera clicked again. But this moment, this curated scene of domestic sweetness, would be the opening act. She had no intention of storming in or shattering it with a scream. No, she would wait, let the celebration begin. She had a gift of her own. Eve didn't cry that night. She sat on the edge of their marriage, the edge of the neatly made bed, the edge of disbelief, and looked around their perfectly symmetrical apartment. Neutral tones, brass accents, framed photos of Santorini, Zurich, and Dubrovnik, all taken by Alexei's phone but edited by her hands. Every corner screamed harmony, design symmetry, precision. She turned her attention to the small wooden box she kept on her desk. It once held fountain pens and expensive stationery. Now it became her evidence drawer. She slid her phone inside, the photos stored like glass daggers. Then came the planning. She wasn't interested in screaming matches or pitiful pleas. No, what she wanted was stillness, the kind that makes liars squirm. Her revenge would be aesthetic, deliberate. It would fit inside a ribboned box and still leave ruins. She began with the basics, a copy of their marriage certificate, a quiet email to a friend at the notary office, no suspicion, no fuss. Then came the photos, curated, not cluttered, a single shot from their last vacation, their arms interlocked on a terrace in Amalfi, another of him fixing her coat outside a gallery, face full of staged affection. The final one, his hand on her lower back, wedding ring clear in focus. Enough to make any woman stop breathing. She found a jeweler's box, small, velvet-lined, and placed inside the sapphire earrings he once gifted her, the ones he told her reminded him of her eyes. Diana should know he recycled compliments as easily as he did gifts. Next, she recorded the audio, a short message, no emotion. "My name is Eva. You don't know me, but I know you. This isn't an attack, it's a correction." She didn't sign it. She didn't need to. By midnight, she had everything. Flash drive with photographs, a printed bank statement showing joint accounts, and a folded letter addressed simply, "To the woman who thinks she knows him." She tied the contents in crisp tissue paper, placed them into a soft gray box, and sealed it with silver twine. She labeled it for Deanna, then paused and changed it from the family. Let them unwrap the irony together. The next day, she visited the location, the country house Diana had rented for the baby shower. It was easy to find. She pretended to be a lost guest when she asked the neighbor about the gate code. The woman had smiled kindly and handed it over without suspicion. Pregnant women attract generosity. She waited inside her car, watching through tinted windows. Balloons, streamers, laughter. Deanna was radiant, oblivious. Alexei looked smug, predictable. Eve documented it all, her fingers steady on the camera button, the images notched into her growing archive. No shaking, no tears, just angles, light, proof. She waited until the guests began to leave, a slow unraveling, cars pulling away, the light softening. Only when the air grew quiet, when the pink tulle began to droop, did she step out of her car. The gift box in her hands looked beautiful, wrapped in champagne paper, delicate bow on top. Inside, the fuse. She walked the cobblestone path without hesitation and rang the doorbell. Footsteps in the door. Dad opened it, still smiling, her cheeks flushed, hands full of flowers. Eve tilted her head slightly, offering the box with both hands like a peace offering. "Hi, I'm Eva," she said softly. "This is for you. From us." She didn't wait for questions. She turned, walked away, and let the silence grow teeth. Inside the box, beneath the polished calm, the truth waited, coiled like a serpent in silk. Deanna's fingers hesitated over the ribbon. The silver twine was tied too neatly, too precisely, the kind of bow you didn't want to pull apart because it was beautiful, and yet she did. The tissue paper rustled softly as she peeled it back. At first, it looked like any thoughtful gift, a small box, velvet, heavy, and a printed photo atop a folded letter. Her name wasn't on it, but the handwriting was unmistakably feminine, deliberate, elegant. She set the photo aside without looking. She opened the note first. "You deserve the truth. At least one of us should have it. I hope you'll understand this is not an act of cruelty. It's the removal of illusion. Eva." She read it again and again. Then she looked at the photo. It wasn't a baby photo or family photo or even a party photo. It was a vacation shot. A beach, maybe Greece, Alexei. Another woman, dark hair, low bun, same jawline she'd seen in the mirror earlier, and they were holding hands, not just touching, intertwined. The next was worse, a kiss on the temple, a laughing gaze over coffee, and then the marriage certificate. Eva G. Sokolova and Alexei M. Sokolov, married 8 years ago. Her legs gave way before her voice did. She sat down right there on the edge of the party table, crumbs from the cake still scattered beside her. And it didn't make sense. Alexei had told her they were separated, that Eva had moved to Europe, that the papers were already signed. She pulled out the flash drive and hesitated, then plugged it into her laptop. The screen came alive with images. Some looked like surveillance. Alexei's car arriving, Alexei carrying a gift, Alexei pressing his hand against her belly in a moment she thought had been private. And behind the photos, a video, a voice. "My name is Eva. You don't know me, but I know you. This isn't an attack. It's a correction." The message ended. No threats, no screaming, just silence that echoed like a scream. She stared at the screen, the heartbeat of her unborn child thundering in her ears. Then came footsteps. The door opened. Alexei stepped inside, adjusting his jacket, wiping something invisible from his sleeve. When he looked up, he stopped. Deanna was holding the photo in one hand, the letter in the other. Her face was pale, but her eyes were no longer soft. He froze. Where did you get that?" His voice cracked slightly. She held up the box. Eva dropped this off. Silence. He didn't move. Deanna started. "Is it true?" she asked, her voice low. "Are you still married to her?" Alexei didn't answer immediately. Instead, his eyes scanned the table, the box, the laptop screen, still glowing with images. "She left me," he began. "No," her voice cut him off. "She watched the entire party from her car. She took photos. She tied that bow herself. This," she held up the letter, "isn't someone who left. This is someone who's been watching." Alexei stepped forward. "She's angry. She's trying to ruin this." "This?" Deanna's laugh was sharp. "What is this, Alexei? What are we?" He opened his mouth, but the words collapsed before they formed. The front door creaked. Both turned. Eva stood there, coat still buttoned, hair still twisted in that same severe knot. The only thing in her hand was her phone. "I thought," she said, "that you should hear together." Alexei stiffened. "What the hell are you doing?" Dinah didn't speak. Her eyes were still locked on Eva. Eva walked in slowly, her heels silent against the wooden floor. She looked at Alexei first. "You told her I left you, that we were divorced." His silence was confirmation. You used my name on that GIF, she continued. That was bold. He started, but she turned to Diana. He used the same card with me 3 years ago. The ex who wouldn't sign the papers, that was his line back then, too. Diana bleeked, stunned. He reached into her coat and pulled out one last item, a key. This is the spare to our apartment, she said, placing it on the table. The one he hid from you. Then she looked back at Alexei. You said I was unwell, that I needed time. You even used that phrase when you called your assistant from the hallway. You thought I couldn't hear. Eva, he said, taking a step forward, palms open. She stepped back. You had your version of the story, she said. I just gave her mine. Then she walked out, not in anger, not in haste, with poise, with finality. Alexei stood frozen. Dinah stared at him as if seeing him for the first time. The baby shower balloons swayed gently above them, a pastel mockery of the moment. Then Diana did something Alexei didn't expect. She picked up the key and threw it at his chest. Lord, Alexei didn't sleep that night. He sat at the edge of the same bed he had shared with Eva for nearly a decade, now stripped of her presence. Her perfume still clung to the edges of the pillows. Her ring sat in the glass tray by the mirror, placed there hours earlier like a verdict. He turned it over in his fingers, the quiet weight of it more punishing than words. The apartment felt different now. Every drawer, every framed photo, every quiet corner hummed with Eva's absence. She hadn't yelled, she hadn't wept. She had simply dismantled his illusion piece by piece and left without waiting for the collapse. He reached for his phone. No new messages, no calls. Deanna hadn't responded either. Not even a read receipt. He tried again, typing out, "Please, let's talk. I can explain everything." He deleted it before sending. There was nothing left to explain. Meanwhile, Diana sat curled on the edge of her bed, the gift box open beside her like a wound. She had unpacked and repacked it 5 times, trying to process what each item meant. As if reordering the contents could change the outcome, she played the recording again. This isn't an attack, it's a correction. Eva's voice echoed through her laptop speakers, calm and deadly. Diana hated how composed it was, how devoid of malice, as if Eva wasn't even angry, as if she had already grieved, moved past it, and now stood at the edge of something cleaner, sharper. Diana had asked herself 1,000 questions. Why hadn't she seen it? Why hadn't she checked? She scrolled through old text from Alexei. The excuses now gleamed with new meaning, vague wording, sudden reschedules, long nights at the office. She thought back to the card on the gift, from Alexei and Eva. She'd thought it was sweet, even joked about it with a friend. Now, it felt like a warning she'd failed to read. Her hand slipped to her stomach, the place where Alexei had rested his hand so often. The gesture once felt comforting. Now it felt like theft. She stared at the wall until her phone buzzed. Alexei again. She let it ring, then blocked him. Eva, meanwhile, was calm. Too calm, maybe. She sat in a quiet cafe with a notebook open before her, her pen tapping against the list she had drawn. Attorneys, realtors, asset assessors. She wasn't spiraling, she was categorizing, sorting the wreckage into folders, like a crisis PR campaign she once ran for a scandalized tech CEO. Only this time she was both the strategist and the client. Her coffee cooled beside her. She hadn't touched it. Her fingers worked methodically, flipping between tabs on her laptop. Divorce proceedings, asset division, shared account closures. She wasn't sad. She wasn't even numb. She was precise. The moment of confrontation hadn't left her hollow. It had left her whole. No screaming, no thrown plates, just a mirror held up in the most elegant way possible. Let him sit in it, let him stew. She had done what needed to be done. Still, a flicker of doubt passed through her as she opened her email. Had it been too much, too cruel? Then she saw the message from Deanna. Subject: "Thank you." No body, just the subject line. Eva stared at it for a long moment. Then she smiled. Not bitter, not proud, just satisfied. Elsewhere, Alexei tried to contain the damage. He called mutual friends, tried to steer the story, claimed Eva had overreacted, claimed Diana had misunderstood, but nobody really believed him. Word spread fast, not because Eva had said anything, but because the silence itself spoke volumes. She wasn't fighting for sympathy. She wasn't telling her side. That was what unsettled people the most. There were no leaks from her, no emotional breakdowns on social media, just quiet disappearance. And in that absence, she became more powerful than any scandal. People didn't know what happened, only that Alexei had lost everything. His wife, his image, his grip. By the end of the week, 2 clients had pulled out of contracts with him. His assistant handed in her resignation. A polite, vague letter, but he knew, she knew, everyone did. Diana's baby shower was never mentioned again. The photos were never posted, the Instagram stories deleted. Friends who had been there pretended they hadn't seen anything strange, but the story lingered, passed around in hushed tones. Did you hear what happened? And apparently his wife showed up and what? No one knew exactly. That was the brilliance of it. The story had no mess, no screaming match, no recorded meltdown. Only a woman delivering a bot and then walking away. The cafe was nearly empty, the soft hum of conversation replaced by clinking cups and the occasional hiss of steamed milk. Outside, early spring moved through the city like a ghost, light rain dusting the windows, painting long streaks over the glass. Eve sat by the corner window, dressed in black, not mourning, just prepared. Before her, a cup of coffee, untouched but warm. Beside it, a sleek leather notebook and a printed list. Names, numbers, law firms, real estate brokers, financial consultants, each underlined in pen. This wasn't grief, this was logistics. She had spent years in public relations watching powerful men implode. Affairs, fraud, scandal, always the same arc: denial, deflection, delay. But what fascinated her more than the crash was what came after. The reinvention. That's what she was doing now. No press releases, no apologies, just silence and motion. Her phone vibrated once. A message. A no number. Thank you. She stared at it for a long second, then locked her screen. Diana had made her choice, and that was enough. Not forgiveness, not alliance, just quiet acknowledgement, a nod across a battlefield now abandoned. A new message appeared, this time from a saved contact. Marina Sokolova, Alexei's mother. They heard, I'm sorry. He deleted the message without opening it. No one had spoken to her in the days that followed, not directly, not with anything useful, but she knew the story had spread, the way silence spreads, like water under a door. She preferred it that way. Let people fill the blanks with their own imagination. Let Alexei answer the questions she never had to ask. She opened her notebook and crossed off a name. One of the attorneys had already responded. Discreet, professional, and more importantly, a woman. She would move out in 10 days. The timeline was clear. New apartment, new bank account, new rules. And she'd keep the ring, not to wear, not even to pawn. Just as a reminder that even beauty has an expiration date when worn in bad faith. The bell above the cafe door chimed. Eve glanced up out of habit. Not him, not anyone she knew. Good. Her eyes returned to her list. She wrote one more name. Not a lawyer, not a broker, a therapist. Someone recommended to her years ago after a work burnout she never admitted to having. Now felt like the right time. Not because she was broken, but because she wanted to make sure she never let someone like Alexei in again. She took a sip of her coffee, finally, and let the warmth settle in her mouth. Across the street, a man in a long coat was walking a small dog. A girl on a bike passed him. A bus rumbled by, indifferent to everything. Life moved. So would she. As she reached for her coat, her phone lit up once more. This time, a number she recognized. Alexei, she didn't read the message. She didn't have to. She turned the phone over, screen down, then stood, left a tip on the saucer, and walked out into the rain without an umbrella. No drama, no final words. The world didn't need to see her ending. It would see her beginning.